Welcome everybody to the next edition of the USO's Military Virtual Programming Series. I'm Adam Zuckerman, your host for today, and you are in for a treat. With 5 solo albums, countless accolades, and a career that spans 3+ decades, Raphael Saadiq's place in music history is more than established. We're not talking soul music, we're not talking R&B or rock and roll, but all music. Now, we want to make sure that the service members and their families around the world have as many opportunities as possible to interact with Raphael. So please use Zoom's Q&A chat feature to submit questions for him to answer. We'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible. If you want to ask a question live, that means on video, at the end of your question in the Q&A box, just type live. And if you're selected, a USO host will bring you into the event. It'll cause your connection to automatically reset and prompt you to activate your camera and microphone. And with that, let's welcome today's star, Raphael Saadiq, to the conversation. Raphael, welcome.
How's it going, man? How's it going?
Now, you're an American singer, you're a songwriter, you're a multi-instrumentalist, a record producer. You've even started a video game company, which not a lot of people know about. And you rose to fame as a member of multi-platinum group Tony. Now, clearly, I think the best way to describe you is just a guy who likes making music. So let's start with a really serious question. You ready? Do you sing in the shower?
Yeah, sure. I think I did in the beginning a little bit. When you hear that rumor that you sound better in the shower, since I started off as a bass player, I think I always wanted to sound a little bit better than I thought I did. So yes, sure.
Are there specific songs that you always go back to?
Probably, it will probably be Golden Lady by Stevie Wonder. It's one of my favorites.
We may have to have you do some licks for us later, but we can talk about that.
Okay.
Now, you launched your career as a solo artist in the mid-1990s, and you earned your first 5 Grammy nominations then, which set the record for an independent release, which is fantastic. And that was for your 2002 album debut, Vintage. But your story started so far before that. How old were you when you first picked up your bass?
I think when I first picked up my bass, I was maybe 7 or 8, around 8 years old. Yeah, 8. My brother played guitar, my dad played guitar. It felt like my whole neighborhood had instruments, so it felt like it was a thing to do.
Mm-hmm. So you're 6 or 7 or 8 years old, you're jamming, music's in your family. Explain the scenario. Is it you wake up and the LP's playing in the background all the time where it's just in your blood, or did you have to go out and seek out what made you happy?
I think I had to go well, there was a lot of vinyl playing in my house, of course, and a lot of blues. Then of course on the radio in the morning was telling my age, and I'm 54, so and when I was waking up, going to school in kindergarten, it was always it felt like Sly and the Family Stone was on the radio all the time, mm-hmm. with Everyday People, and Steely Dan, Donald Fagen was on the radio a lot. So in between those type of records and Ohio players, there was so much music in my neighborhood. I think I just migrated to a bass, and there was a lot of Motown in the house, a lot of 60s music, a lot of Temptations, a lot of music, a lot of Love American Style on TV. It was all these TV shows and cartoons had so much music. I think I was just surrounded by all these big theme songs on TV shows, and unknowns to me, I was hearing a lot of different melodies, and I was catching on to melody at a young age. I think once I finally got an instrument in my hand, it all came to me. Everything that surrounded me, I sort of encompassed and was able to pull it out of my brain and into the bass.
So you soaked up everything around you, and you hit 17, 18 years old, and you did what a lot of service members do. You know, you say, I'm packing things up. I'm going to say goodbye to my family, which you have a huge family, 14 total kids in it, right? Big.
Yeah.
And you hit the road.
Yeah.
What was that story? What was it like being away from home? How did you handle the constant change in the environment? And this isn't just a trip where you're out somewhere. You're with like unbelievable people to learn from. Like, what happened?
Well, I auditioned for Sheila E.'s band in '86, and we were opening up for Prince on the Under Cherry Moon tour in Japan. I think he was, Sheila was his signed to Paisley Park.
Mhm.
So she was auditioning a new band. I went to San Francisco and auditioned at SIR, and I got the gig, and I was off to Japan hanging out with some of the biggest management companies, lawyers, and the Prince himself, and talking to him one on one, watching him sound check, and just kind of just being a fly on the wall for me, just watching him, watching Sheila, and
Mhm.
watching all the musicians, the lighting guys. I took everything in, but for me, it wasn't like leaving home because I had my base. I was at home the whole time.
Mhm. Mhm. And from that, you
Yeah.
learned, you grew. You've been described as the epitome of dapper, cool, crooning frontman with rhythm in your bones, effortless with infectious conviction, and the new voice of American soul. Your music, just across the spectrum, neo soul, R&B, doo-wop, rock and roll, and I think what could be my favorite, the juicy funk-filled catalog of social grooves. Right? You are jubilantly retro. How would you
Yeah.
describe your music to people? You have so many different sounds, you have so many different influences, you've traveled the world. What do you consider your brand of music?
I consider my brand. I started calling it gospedelic around instant vintage because I was trying to find a home for it because it was so very hard to explain what I do. And when I heard the term neo soul, I actually hated it because neo soul means, I guess it meant new soul,
Mm-hmm.
and I always saw myself as an old soul.
Okay. All right. Now we've
So
got some wonderful people for you.
I
I want to surprise you.
totally tracked a tombstone that said neo soul on this album called Ray Ray. So I think I coined my music as just international music. It was definitely soulful. It was definitely had some gospel um to it. It had a lot of truth to it because I was telling stories, that I seen in my neighborhood or I've seen in TV, or I've seen in relationships. Um, I guess who can I say? Ray, you grew up listening to BB King, Ray Charles, a lot of blues. My mother is a person who likes to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go fishing, you're a kid, you don't really want to go as a kid. You just have to hang out and get in the car and leave because there's nobody at the house. You have to go. But on those rides, we would have these 8 tracks in the car, these huge, boom, you pop them in, and all these different songs would come on. And I guess I try to give back to the world what was given to me, how I projected these things in my head, all these visions and all these bands. And, growing up in Oakland, we had the Grateful Dead, right across the bridge and the bay. I've seen so many different types of music from Carlos Santana, from, Journey and Tower Power, Pete Escovedo and his orchestra, and then all the funk bands too. And so, you know, I just wanted to play it all. I couldn't get enough of. I could not just be one thing. It was impossible for me to try to be just R&B. Wasn't I like very like I had to talk about pop music in a different way. I had to call pop music. It's not pop. It's popular. So I had all these things in my head and nobody to talk to it about. So I had to do it by writing songs, and it took so many years to get people to even try to put a finger on what I was doing. So there's no real name for it, but guitar stores and record stores,
Yeah. But at the same point in time,
music stores.
definitely you found your place. I mean, you have 15 Grammy nominees, you're multiple time winner, Golden Globes, Academy Awards, the Black Reel Awards. Like your accolades just go on and on and on. And you found your voice, which is so authentic and true that it's resonating with people around the world, which I'm sure that you know. Now, there's two people I want to introduce you to. Let's throw over to Erbil, Iraq for
Okay.
a conversation. We've got Staff Sergeant Cam Rhodes and First Lieutenant Shaniqua Brinkley. Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
So do you guys have a
Hello, how
question
you doing?
for Ray?
Yes, we do. So, hello. My
Hello.
name is First Lieutenant Shaniqua Brinkley. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. And my question for you is, so you've been doing music for over 3 decades. So how do you feel when you're riding down the highway and you're listening to the radio and your song comes on? Do you still get like that butterfly effect? Like, oh my goodness, that's me? Because I can't tell you a function that I haven't been to and one of your songs hasn't come on and like the whole crowd just stops and everybody's into it.
Yeah, well, it's a really good feeling. I think every year it changes a little bit. You know, in the beginning, it feels like you're watching the five heartbeats and you jump out of bed when you first hear your record. Then that sort of leaves, and then it becomes you start thinking about what you accomplished, and it makes you feel really good. And I kind of say, I'm not so bad. You know, that's what I say. You know, personally, that's me. That's my take. But it feels great.
Good. Well, I enjoy your music, so thank you.
First Lieutenant, can you
Thank
tell
you
us a
for
little bit
listening.
about,
I mean, I'm nothing if you're not listening.
First Lieutenant, could you let us know where you are and what the mission is that you're a part of right now?
So I work in the medical field. I'm a medical officer, and I'm in Erbil right now.
All right. Where are you from?
Wow.
Dothan, Alabama.
All right. You have anything else for Ray?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you. Nice
Sergeant
meeting
Dan.
you.
Nice meeting you too.
You too.
Staff Sergeant, you're up.
How you doing? My name is Staff Sergeant Rose. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, and I'm in Erbil right now.
Oh, wow. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How are you doing today? Good.
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good.
So my question for you is, where do you pull your
How you doing?
from? Oh, I'm good. Where do you pull your inspiration from for your music?
Okay, there you go. There we go. I pull my inspiration from I'm definitely a natural religious guy. I come from a really religious background. So I like to say my inspiration is from God, is from a higher power. I'm able to reach people that I've never met. I feel like this certain responsibility that I have to like you guys have to serve in the military, and you have to be on point. You have to take care of the welfare of your men in the military. I have to do the same thing in music. So I feel like when I'm recording music, that it has to go out over the airwaves a certain way. And I know when I'm making it, when I release it, someone like yourself is going to hear it. And when I think about that, I think it comes from drums, from across the world, from Africa. Music, it comes from, you know, what we really share in music is drums, you know, rhythm. And rhythm makes people move. It makes people think. And I think when I hear different rhythms, it makes me sing. It makes me want to play piano and different things. So I just think it comes from a long way back, so far back I can't even really express it. I really don't ask any questions about how I make music. It just happens, and I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty lucky. So I just keep going, you know.
I got you. I have one more question for you. What is your favorite song? I know I have quite a few that I play throughout the warehouse when we're working. What is your favorite song? Can you pinpoint like one of them and why?
Yeah, of course. One of my favorite songs will probably, it's weird. It's probably a song that I did called "Tell Me Mama." It's actually on a Tony's record, a Tony record. That will be one. And the other one is on my new album. It's called "Sinner's Prayer."
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, USO Erbil, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate
too.
you guys and what you're doing. So stay safe out there. Ray, times have changed a lot. When you started making music, we didn't have the internet like we have it today. Spotify's not around, Tidal's not around, Apple Music's not around. I mean, heck, we used to line up in Tower Records to get tickets to shows, right? Has that changed your approach to creating? How do you feel the internet's impacted the music business, and is that a good thing or a bad thing for you?
I think, like you're right. Back in the day, we had Tower Records. We still have Amoeba in Los Angeles and probably in San Francisco. It's a couple of stores open. But I always say, you know, I think it's always a good thing when the consumer can get a hold to music and they can listen. So the listening experience is amazing with these different platforms and the internet. But I just think that it's a little unfair, a little bit, for musicians and younger kids that are coming up, because it's a lot of uncertainty on, you know, on how people get paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a whole different discussion. But I just think that if you have a kid in the house and you have one's a doctor, one's a lawyer, and one wants to be whatever, a scientist or I don't know, something, but whatever they do, they have this work, this drive, and they're really good at it. And they become professionals, make the money that they think they want to make. And I think it's a little uncertain of how it's going to end up in the future. With, if your kid wants to be a musician, we're not for sure if that kid is going to be able to make a living and take care of his family and have generational wealth for the rest of their life, like a lot of other artists that we know, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, and you know, Al Green. These people actually can live off the earnings. So I think we have a lot of growing to do in some of the platforms. But I think at some point, you know, we'll figure out the fairness and streaming soon. So that's kind of where I sit with that.
All right. Now, on the topic of growth, Meredith Wilson just wrote in, I loved all the music in the show Insecure, and when I found out it was curated by you, I was like, of course. How do you discover new songs? I mean, that's growth in a really interesting way. Where are you going to discover?
Well, it's actually another guy just does a lot of that work. I'm just blanking on his name right now. This is terrible. That question has to come back because I have to say his name. But what I do, let's talk about what I do in the show. What I do in the show is I score it. So I write songs and sing songs in the show. And I also change some of the temp music to better versions, not better version, but different versions of the songs that we don't actually want to pay for. And so those songs that you hear, a lot of the needle drops are from Issa Rae and from the team. So I can't take responsibility for finding all that great music, but people always tell me, we love all the music you bring on the show. So because my name is on the show, but it's definitely a team effort.
All right. So I want to remind people that you can submit your questions via the Q&A. Let us know where you are. It's always fun to see the service members around the world. Now, you just mentioned it's a team effort, which is a collaborative effort, and you've had the opportunity to collaborate with more people than probably anybody in the industry, right? We're talking Whitney Houston, Mary J. Blige, The Roots, Erykah Badu, A Tribe Called Quest, The Bee Gees, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder. Literally, it would take me 10 or 20 minutes to go down your list. How does that work for you? Because
right.
You also said that you love the soul production aspect of life, and it's a shift when you do in the Tonys. So how do you approach it?
Yeah. Okay. Back to the other Insecure question. The name I was blanking out on because I'm going through a lot today. It's Keir Lemon. Keir Lemon is the guy. He's the guy he's the magic guy behind Insecure with Issa Rae. Okay. Now back to all these groups that I've worked with, that I've listened to, I've worked with. Yeah. So what was the end of that question?
All right. What's it like to collaborate with these people? What's the process? It's a collaborative endeavor. Are you writing for them? Are they writing for you? What's going on?
Okay, so my process of working with most of those groups, I'm writing for them.
Okay. Now, is that difficult? Because are you shifting it so you're saying, I'm going to put myself in a headspace where I'm in their voice? Or are you writing for you as you, and then they're using your voice as them?
Well, in my head, I'm using their voice and I'm putting it in my head to give it back to them of what I think they should sound like, or what they sound like with a little twist of lemon of me, you know, a little squirt of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, when I'm working with these legends, I'm just hanging out.
Yeah.
I'm just hanging out. When I hung out with Maurice White, if a song comes out, you know, good. If it doesn't, I'm hanging out with Maurice White. I mean, this is my childhood idol, and I'm just in awe of him. And I just can't believe I'm sitting in the studio with Maurice White. And even sometime when I hang out with, you know, Stevie Wonder,
Mm-hmm.
he is a friend of mine. He likes to call himself a friend of mine, but I guess he's my friend, but I'm still such a big fan that I can't, it's hard for me to sit there. And I mean, I'm sitting there like just, you know, 'cause he can't see me. He can feel me. He's funny and he's talented. And I'm just sitting there with my hands like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in the room with Stevie. I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. I mean, they're your friends and they're your peers, and they're probably feeling the same exact way about you because you've helped so many people get to where they are. Now, Trevor Allen, she says, thank you for your music. I love it. My favorite song by you is Still Ray. What inspired the song? I absolutely love the horns.
Well, I was definitely listening to Dr. Dre, Still Dre. So I called it Still Ray. And I wanted to make, you know, because Dr. Dre is really hardcore, and I want to take the piano part and turn it into like more of a beautiful lullaby, something I was sing. And then, you know, I've always like second line bands. I'm really big on New Orleans second line band, and a lot of my friends and musicians are from New Orleans. And I played trombone as a kid in school, so I wanted to add a tuba because I've never heard a tuba in any R&B hip hop songs at that point. I think I was the first one to do that, and I like doing something different and taking people out of their element. That's one of my little knacks to do. I like to do something completely different all the time.
Mm-hmm. What do you have in store? So if you're looking for something different, are you just walking down the street and you're listening to beats or picking up the rhythm? Or is it, you know what, this is something I'm going to sit down in a studio and jam? Like what's your route for finding your creative inspiration on that end?
Really, my creative inspiration is my guitar case, my bass case. Once I open up my guitar case and I look inside and see my instrument laying there, we have this relationship, you know. And once I take it out, this is pretty much that's the deal. That's the inspiration. I take my bass and my guitar everywhere with me. I have to have a car that can fit my guitar and my bass and the amplifier and some drums. I can't have a car that those instruments don't fit in. So because those were my toys. Those were my, you know, as a kid, I didn't have toys like most kids. I didn't want toys. I didn't want any big wheel. I didn't want none of that. I wanted an instrument. I wanted a case I can open up and see this fur in there with this guitar laying in there. So really that's the light. That's like, you know how you watch Pulp Fiction and they open up that briefcase and that little light they
comes up.
Just show. That's what my guitars are like.
Yeah. See, I have the same problem. I've got a guitar on the other side of the room. I open it up, it sings to me, and I shake my head because I don't know how to play very well.
But I understand.
It's pretty. All right, we got some more notes for you. Eugenia Gardner says, Raphael, a few years ago, you performed in Aspen, Colorado. My husband was reintegrating from a deployment, and it was the first time he relaxed and chilled. Thank you for sharing your gift with all of us, Eugenia.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's impact like that you truly have. I mean, another person, Tawani McGee, says, I don't really have a question. Just wanted you to know I absolutely love your music. I just returned home from Iraq, currently quarantined at Fort Hood, waiting to go home. Yeah.
Wow. Where's Fort Hood?
Where is Fort Hood? You know? I don't know, but I bet I'm going to find out in 1 second. It's in Texas, Fort Hood, Texas. Yeah.
It's in Texas. Okay.
So if you're watching right now, shout out, let us know in the Q&A where you're located, and we'll do a run through in a little bit. Looks like Meredith Wilson is Aloha from Hawaii. So let's talk about Jimmy Lee a little bit. It was your first album in 8 years since Stone Rollin', and it was quite frankly just phenomenal. And accolades, people say it could be one of your best catalog tracks. Like the collection is the best. What happened?
Thank you.
8 years off. You weren't off in the sense of doing nothing. You were clearly busy with your other endeavors. You're an entrepreneur in music. What was that like? Why did you take so long to roll it out? Is that now your new methodology? You're going to take some time in between dropping things, or did you just sit back and say, you know what? I have enough stuff together.
No, I think it doesn't take 8 years to do an album like that. I was working on TV shows. I did Insecure, another show called Underground, and I was just trying to build this whole different world of scoring film and working with different artists and taking some time to hang out with my mom. I lost my dad in those 8 years also, and they're getting older. And even my mom has been sick now, so that's why I'm here now with my mom. So I knew I needed to take that time to be around my parents and talk to them a little bit and talk about them and learn more about the life they already told me about that they had, and just see what they left out. And it was important to come home and be around some nieces and nephews and see what they were doing in school, and just taking some time away from, a little bit more unselfish about, musicians can be very selfish, once you get into, you're just running. So it was really good to, go home and be around some nature. Had to get out of LA for a minute and, just give back. And then my brother, his name was Jimmy Lee, and it just kind of hit me. I had a few songs already, and then my whole album, the direction of the album changed, and I started thinking about my oldest brother Jimmy Lee, who was addicted to heroin at a very young age. And I realized that I never had a conversation with him about what that must have been like, because he was really the only one who had that sort of problem, but I never really got the opportunity to talk to. And, once you're in this industry, you meet a lot of people that have the same type of addictions and different problems. And you don't look down on them. And my family, sometimes, he was the black sheep of the family. And so I wanted to make a record about the person that people may have thought he was the black sheep, but he was one of the guys who I admired the most. And, to make a record about him was, I think it was something great for my mom and my father and family to see how much I really thought about him. And, of course, the record was about drug addiction. And one of my really good friends, Brian Grant, who played, he's a retired NBA star, played for Portland Trailblazers and the Miami Heat, Sacramento Kings. And he suffers from Parkinson's, so he was having some depression, and so he sort of started dealing with opioids and got addicted to pills. And he's like one of my best friends, and I would talk to him a lot about it. Yeah. And so, listening to him and thinking about my brother, I thought I should make a record that would help me understand and help also people to understand family members that might have some sort of drug addiction, that you can't look down on someone who has got addicted to a chemical. It's you don't know what you're getting into, or you take this chance. You don't think you can get hooked on it or something like that. And next thing you know, I had a whole record about drug abuse and addiction. And it also came from my addiction of liking chocolate. Like I couldn't stop eating like chocolate croissants. I said, well, what's the difference between my addiction and their addiction? It's a little bit the same. One is just looked at a little different. If you go get a chocolate croissant, people go, oh, that's cute. You go get some heroin, everybody's like, whoa, so.
And it's a real take on that. And the album is not a down album, though it's dealing with some really serious topics. And we're in the world that we are in right now. It's certainly a little bit different than it was a year ago. Now, you go back to needing your instruments when you travel, right? But we're all changing plans in quarantine. What have the last few months been for you? Is it all music? Is it all family all the time now? How are you staying strong in your head?
Well, I've been hiking a lot, staying in the mountains and walking around a lot of green, standing around a lot of trees, and just and then hanging out with my mom. And music is not the only thing that's holding me up. It's one of the things that's holding me up. And bike riding, and it's a little disbelief of what's going on right now. And it's so much. I think we're gonna look back at these times and reflect, that we all lived in these times. That was, when you look at history, there's so many other historic times that we didn't live in. This is probably one of the biggest, at least one of the top five. I won't say it's the biggest, but it's one of the top five. But music always helps. But I think just having conversation with different friends and different people, and also, giving back. I also did a Feed the City challenge in Oakland, in my city where I grew up at. And that was really good to, pass out like, 3,500 boxes of food and fruit and vegetables, and, to families in need, so to helping people in need is like a big thing. It's no better feeling than giving back to people. And that felt really good to, to get there early in the morning and pack boxes and move around. And people came out and volunteered, people who like the music, they came out and volunteered. And I mean, I think the whole day I was just lit up. I think I'll be lit up for the rest of my life, knowing that, when you feel like what giving back is, I always give back music, and I've always mentored younger kids and musicians and even older adults, but giving back and watching people drive up and have an emotional moment, and, not just singing, we're just, talking. I see people were crying and, thanking not just me, but thanking Tony Draper, who has a label called Suave House Record out of Houston. And also Ricky Davis is a retired NBA star too, from the Miami Heat. And they're going around the world doing this. So I just sort of sponsor my city with Oakland. So I'm doing things like that, just philanthropy things to try to help. I think that's where I'm at in life right now. I'm trying to give back to some important issues.
And that's really what your mantra is. It seems like over your career, it's helping out and helping other people and helping them feel better. So many of your jams have been upbeat. Now giving back the thousands of pounds of food in Oakland. You got local news coverage for it. I saw a few of your spots there. And the social of it was fantastic. Like, you're truly making an impact. The comments right now. So Kip Pendleton, Sunny SoCal, Woot Woot from Trevor Allen. You got PJ, who's in Wiesbaden, Germany. You actually have this rare gift to connect with people. And for that, I'm going to ask you a question of how people can get happy. So what's your specific 5-track playlist of, you know what, today hasn't been great, I need a lift up? What are you listening to?
I'm probably going to listen to, if I need a lift up, I'm going to listen to the Blind Boys of Mississippi. I'll listen to Johnny Guitar Watson. I'll listen to probably Golden Lady by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And I'll probably listen to a gospel album by Wine, song called Jesus. I'll probably listen to Dirty Mind by Prince.
Okay. I think we need to create a playlist. You've got a few on Spotify right now. But like, this is Ray's Happy Pick You Up Jams list by the USO. Right? People listen to it all over.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you revisit? So you've got your collection, you've got your catalog. Is there anything that you go, you know what? I want to give it an update. I think I can give it a different spin.
You mean like musically?
Yeah. So what you worked on or put out over the last 3 decades that you go, you know what? When I put it out, this song was perfect and it hit the mark. But right now, with the tech that has changed, the times have changed, the message has changed. If I did this little bit to tweak it, is there anything or anybody you want to go back to and work with again?
Well, I always have my friends. My friends are D'Angelo, Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest. Those are like my, my boys, and so we're like we will always be together. Now we don't often see each other. We text each other on the phone. We have a thread. Q-Tip and D'Angelo. So we all text each other, but we barely pick up the phone. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Mm-hmm. But I think with those guys, it's always some type of creative force that's going to sound great.
And D'Angelo, he spends most of his time out in the Village, right? And you're on the West Coast.
D'Angelo loves D'Angelo's more of Electric Lady, New York guy.
Okay.
He's from Virginia, but he loves Electric Lady. That's the studio besides Jimi Hendrix, that studio should be named D'Angelo.
Okay. And when you hop over to New York, do you just pop into studios and jam out and listen in? Or do you, I'm out of the studio time, I'm not going to seek it out? Like, what's your role when you go into a new city for a tour?
When I go into New York, I just want to go eat food. I'm a foodie. I want to eat. I don't want to go to a studio unless one of my friends are in the studio. I want to hit the city. I want to be in the street. I want to feel New York. I'm always trying to make New York like it was in the 90s. It's a little different now. It's not like it was. It's not as fly as it was from what I hear from my really good friends, Q-Tip. He says, New York is not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. So I'm always dreaming about, New York when it was, early hip hop with Rockin' and the venues like the Tunnel, and you would see like the Jungle Brothers and all these groups are just running around the street in New York. That's how I remember New York. So I'm always, running around New York, shopping or some little, New York, you could find a little small store that's so small. You can find like really nice one-of-a-kind things. So that's what I do in New York.
Okay, so you're seeking out the unique in New York. Let's talk about the unique in music in other cities. You mentioned New Orleans, and I've spent a lot of time down there. Personally, I prefer Frenchman much more so than Street. Are there specific clubs down there that you like to find when you get down, or are you picking up in front of hotels and just jumping in? Where are the cities that you're going to when you want authentic, just good people, good music?
I would say New Orleans is number one.
Yeah? Why?
For me.
Why?
Just the wide variety of music that they can play and play well, as far as jazz, funk, R&B, classic R&B, and I mean, of course, jazz, but it's just that they have a different spin. One of my bass player, he's now, he actually, get a hold of this. My bass player, Calvin Turner, he left playing music and went to the military. He went to the Army.
Okay.
And we were all brokenhearted. You know, he did his 3 years and he's in the military, and now he's a police in New Orleans. But this is the baddest bass player ever. I'm a bass player, but this dude is incredible. And he lives in New Orleans. He's back in New Orleans. We talk all the time. And also my one of my partners and helped me score films and is working with me with a few projects that I'm doing now. Like one is the Aretha Franklin, the Genius, a TV show that I'm working on with Cynthia Riva. She's singing. She plays Aretha. Jamel Adisa, he's a trumpet player. They all from New Orleans. Tab, I could keep going. These guys are like my backbone. My backbone actually is in New Orleans. It's in Nolens, we like to say.
Yep. Yeah. It sounds like we got to get him together and you out on a tour when things open up again. You know, it's the reunion back to the military for him to see some.
Trust me, I'm calling them every other day, and I'm sneaking. I'm trying to figure out how I can get him out of that a little bit. I'm like, okay, you already did 3 years and whatever, and now you're police. I'm like, just be careful out there. It's, it's dangerous times. I talk to him, make sure he's okay. Then I'll try to sneak a tour on him at some point once it's all over, of course.
That would be amazing. Now, let's talk about that. So service member tie-ins, military tie-ins. Your dad was actually a super lightweight boxer, if I remember correctly. As you mentioned, he loved to play the blues guitar. And he was working as a sheet metal man at the Naval Air Station in Alameda, California, which isn't around anymore. Did you ever go on base with him when you were a kid, and did that influence you?
I've been to the naval base a lot. I was there a lot. Also, I went to we played on the naval base a lot. It was a very popular club on the naval base there. Yeah, I think the base was open, but it was a very popular club that everybody in Oakland spent a lot of time.
Do you have any stories from the base?
Spent a lot of time there.
You tell us some stories.
Yeah, my dad was
that people might know.
It was funny. Yeah, it was funny. It's weird because when you go to this club, we didn't feel like they let us on the base. I felt like it was, if you had a security check-in, I feel like they put the club outside of the security check-in. Yeah. I don't ever remember going into some showing the ID and walking and driving in the base and parking. So I think it was on the outside of the base, but it was on the property. I don't think we had to go through any security. So all we knew, it was called the naval base, and it was a party on the naval base.
Were you going in with your dad and maybe he had a badge or something, or you just rolling in with the band and it was totally different?
No, you just roll in. My dad was more of the person who, because you growing up in Oakland, when you play gospel and you play R&B, you get like church people saying, "You're going to hell if you're playing R&B," And my dad was totally not that type of guy. My father told me, he said, "Well, let me tell you something, son." He said, well, in R&B and blues, the key of E flat is the same key of E flat at church. So he said, if you have a problem, if they're scaring you and making you only want to play church music, don't try to be a musician. Come down here and let me get you a job in Naval Air.
All right. So he's giving you some pretty good advice. And
he
back religion, like you said, you're a pretty spiritual guy. And your dad's stepping up and saying, listen, you got to follow your own path. What's the best advice he ever gave you, or what's the best advice anybody's ever given you?
I think Sidney Poitier and my dad gave me some great advice. Sidney Poitier, my dad has a million things. One was about, people going to jail. Mm-hmm. The one I liked the most, like he was like, like when you make it and you become famous, he said, the duck was all right until he quacked, and then they shot him. So, he meant like, just in life, just be you. Don't try to make this big stink or this big noise about yourself. Just do what you do. And Sidney Poitier told me that, so he said it's going to be a lot of things in life, a lot of decision making you're going to have to make. And it's the hardest thing to do in life is to make the right decision. That what the right decision is. You'll know it. So he said, I'm gonna be watching you. So just try to make the right decision. So you always know, when you send that bad text off to somebody, when you're writing it, it's not a great idea, right? Mm-hmm. You just have to, backtrack and delete it. So I think those type of men in my life were very, very, very important.
So like in the cartoons, you get the little angel and the devil on your shoulders. One of your little angels is Sidney Poitier. That's fantastic. Just whispering in your ear. All right, we got another comment from Bonita Owens. Hello from Fort Sam in Houston, Texas. I know you hear this question often. I hate to be the one to ask it to you, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Any chance of the group doing any performing together? You getting the band back?
There is a chance. There is a chance of us becoming the Blues Brothers and getting the band back. Yes, I've been thinking about it a long time. In the past years, you've heard me be pretty solid and say there's not a chance in hell that I'm ever going to do that. But there's a chance. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get together, and I actually miss it being around my brother and Tim, and because I'm a band guy. I'm always a band guy. So even when I became a solo artist, I became really close to the new guys that I played in the band with. But me and my brother talk a lot, and also Timothy Christian Riley. My brother's name is Dwayne, and we're definitely going to get together and do a couple of surprise shows and maybe record a few new songs.
Oh, that'll be fantastic. Are you looking to drop an album or just a few singles every now and again?
No, I think the guys are not up to my brother's not up to making any album. He told me he's like, man.
Oh, you're actually talking about it then. You're having real conversations.
Oh yeah, me and my brother talk about it. My brother says, man, I don't know where you find all that drive to be one make record. He said, I'm like, man, it's just what I do, but I'll definitely put him in the headlock and make him sing. I've already made him sing a song. So if I can get him to sing on 3 songs, part of it, then I could finish the rest.
Okay. Who do you want to sing backup for you? So if you're like, hey, you're big, I've done you favors, you're singing backup now, right? Who do you want behind you? I'm not
really big on backup singers. I've had background singers, like some of the best. Kid named BJ from Oakland, and Erica Jerry, Charles Jones. These are people who sing with me all the time, who's some of the best musicians and background singers I've ever worked with. But the last tour I went on, I didn't take any background singers. Audience become the background singing amazing.
And that's because you've got that rhythm on stage that just engages and envelops everybody. They want to sing for you and with you. It's like a family when you're performing. All right. So we talked a lot about music. What do you do when you're not in the music state of mind? I heard from a little birdie that you absolutely love ESPN and that you are a sports junkie. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm pretty much an ESPN junkie. I have to admit this, and I thought I was pretty much tired of watching Stephen A. Because sometimes Stephen A. gets on my nerve a little bit. I'm really a Jalen Rose type of guy, and but during the pandemic, I missed Stephen A. I missed Stephen A. And I found I'm at my mom's house, and I didn't even know she can get ESPN. Once I found it, I'm stuck to the TV again, watching every show, watching soccer, football, baseball, all the drafts, watching the teams in the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It's some of my best pastime is watching sports and listening to sports analysts, talk. And I'm definitely an ESPN junkie for sure.
Is that a legacy you think from your dad, who, as we mentioned earlier, was boxing? It looks like, based on online on your Insta, you were in a boxing gym a little while ago, recording a little bit. Are sports part of who you are? Do you work out a lot to clear your head, or is it just I want to be a spectator?
I work out a lot. I'm definitely super athletic. I like to, I try to run 3 miles every other day.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't go out and play basketball, but I'll go out and shoot around, or I might play game of horse, or I have a basketball court out in front of my studio, so I'll go out and shoot around. I always keep a couple of basketballs around, always throwing passes. I got footballs and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go out and play flag football or anything like that. I did that one time. We played tackle football. The last time I played tackle football, it was with a good friend of mine named Johnny Alves and Mark Wahlberg. And it was outside of Mark's house. And I forget the actor name who he played in. This actor, so I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. But his house is next door to Mark's house. Mm-hmm. And I've been knowing Mark since Mark was like 17 years old, before he was this guy he is now.
Yeah.
So we played football, and I went and bought cleats, everything. I was running and cutting left and cutting and tackling, and it was flag, but we was tackling people on accident. But the next day,
I didn't mean to level you there, Mark.
So much pain. I was in so much pain. I was like, I'll never play another game of flag football or anything like that.
I mean, you're talking about doing light touch tackle football with probably some of the best in shape actors and people in the world. Like, I can't imagine Mark isn't going to hit you hard. Like, yeah, it's going to hurt. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mark is a bully. You know what I mean? So, and he's cut up, he ripped up. I remember I was hiking the ball as a center. He was in front of me, and he had planned on just smashing me. You could tell. And so when I hiked the ball, I just went under Mark, and lifted him up and flicked him in the air. Some dirty tricks from Oakland.
I hope they're
to a Boston boy.
And you learn a lot from Oakland. Like, talk about when you were a kid. Did you have pets? Do you have a dog? I heard that Jimmy Lee brought a few home for you at one point in time.
Yeah, I had a few pets. My brother Jimmy would bring me pets. I tell this story on the tour that my brother Jimmy would bring me home German Shepherds, Labrador, just 2 or 3 dogs, and my mom would take the dog and put the dog in the trunk and take the dog to the park and let the dog out. For some reason, I don't think she thought I was going to take care of the dog, and she wanted to be her responsibility. And she did it 3 times. And then one day we got a dog that she really liked. It was a black Labrador retriever named Caesar. And that dog we kept, and then that dog ran away on his own.
And did you go out and?
So then after that, I became like a dog lover. So I've had like 4 actually dogs that I thought I would be scared of when I was growing up. I never liked pit bulls when I was growing up. I wasn't a pit bull guy at all. But when I got older, I had this pit bull named Rufus that I named after Shaka Khan and Rufus. And it was a red-nosed pit bull, and it was like the nicest dog in the world. So then I had Rufus, and I had Mia, and I had Kane, and I had Mia. And I had all of them until they passed away.
It happens. Pit bulls can be the nicest dogs in the whole world. Next time I talk to you, I'll tell you a fun story about how my neighbor had one, and I essentially adopted it, and then she gave it away. I was heartbroken for weeks. That's a whole nother story. We are unfortunately running out of time.
I bet.
Just a
Yeah,
few
I bet.
questions for you. Now, even when you aren't speaking, people are listening to what you're saying. You've got 257,000 Instagram followers and 17 posts. That's pretty impressive. It means you have a fairly strong voice, and that's representative of impact, of influence, and quite frankly, of respect. There are 1.3 million active duty personnel in the world. So that gives you an idea of the scope of who's out there in the service members. And it's not just the service members, but it's also their families as well. So I've got two questions for you. The first is, what's a question that you wish more people asked you? And the second one is, do you have a final message of support you want to offer to the service members around the world? This is your floor.
I think the first question, if I wish, what do I wish people would ask me? I think the first question would be, what would you like me to teach you how to cook? Because musicians never actually cook for themselves. So I think people want to talk about music, and I want people to ask me, do I cook? And if you don't, like, they will like want to give me a recipe or something like that. And also the military question.
Yep.
What would I want to say to?
If you had a final message of support to offer service members around the world and their families, what would you want to say?
I would say, first of all, when I was in school from 9th grade to 12th grade, I was in ROTC. I was my highest rank was I was in first class. I was a sergeant. My best friends were all colonels and lieutenants. I wasn't as good at them, and I served. I was in the drill team too. I was really a good drill team guy, of course. And my first video with the Tonys was military drill team steps that I used from the military. Had to get that out to them. I would like to say to everyone that's serving in the military that, you know, to stay prayerful, stay focused, and to just read a lot as you can, educate yourself, and get everything you can out of the military, you know, and become something that we can use in the real world. You know, learn as much as you can when you go abroad. I mean, because that's what traveling is about. In every country, you know, talk to some very wise people, men and women across the world, and bring that education back to wherever you're from in the United States, because, you know, kids need it, you know, and try to figure out some type of programs that we can grab kids and make these kids travel around the world. Because I feel like, you know, people like yourself and the military and myself, we get the chance to go around the world and, you know, go to see different museums and look at different art and meet different people. Even meeting a guy in a cab will teach you more about the place you actually live in, more than you actually know. So I would say to all of you guys to seek as much knowledge and information as you can, and please bring it back to America and teach the youth.
All right. Raphael, that is a fantastic message. We hope to get you out with your buddy from New Orleans on tour sometime with the USA.
Yes.
I'll come and say hello. With that,
yeah, please do.
Everybody for joining us. Raphael, thank you for joining us. This is another episode
of the
Military Virtual Programming Series. Check with your local USO center at your location, or go to www.uso.org/MVP for future event information. With that, Raphael, it's been fun.